You do not lose aircraft carriers to submarines. That was the rule. For decades, every major navy in the world believed it. Carriers were the most protected assets at sea, surrounded by destroyers, shielded by aircraft, guarded by sonar nets and layered defenses. They were fast, maneuverable, and constantly watched. Submarines, by contrast, were hunters of the weak and the lonely. They stalked cargo ships, they ambushed tankers, they strangled supply lines slowly and invisibly. They did not hunt the crown jewels of a fleet. The Imperial Japanese Navy believed this rule with near religious certainty. Its carriers had humiliated Western powers at Pearl Harbor and swept across the Pacific in the opening months of the war. Losing one was painful. Losing several to submarines was unthinkable. But in 1944, that unbreakable rule begins to crack, and in November of that year, one American submarine and one man who had already failed once will shatter it completely. Joseph Francis Enright is 38 years old when this moment comes. He is not a celebrated ace. He is not a headline commander. In fact, earlier in the war, his career nearly ended in quiet disgrace. Enright had previously commanded a submarine patrol that produced no kills. Under the crushing weight of combat pressure, he hesitated. The Navy relieved him of command. For many officers, that would have been the end of the story, a promising career erased without ceremony. But Enright refuses to disappear. He retrains, he studies submarine tactics obsessively, he learns from other commanders, he rebuilds his confidence piece by piece. By mid-1944, the Navy gives him a second chance. The command is USS Archerfish, a Gato-class submarine, stretching 311 feet long, armed with 10 torpedo tubes and carrying 24 torpedoes. 80 men serve aboard her, most barely old enough to shave. They know the odds. Submarine duty is the deadliest job in the U.S. Navy. 1 in 5 boats will not return. The strategic situation is desperate, but not for the Americans. By late 1944, U.S. submarines have already devastated Japan's merchant fleet. Oil tankers burn, food shipments vanish, entire island garrisons starve. Yet Japan still believes its navy can fight one last decisive battle. The solution, Japanese planners think, is carriers, bigger, stronger, and better protected than anything the enemy has ever faced. The ultimate expression of that belief is Shinano. Originally laid down as a Yamato-class battleship, she is converted mid-construction into an aircraft carrier. The result is monstrous. Over 70,000 tons of displacement, armor thick enough to shrug off bombs, designed to support an entire carrier fleet with aircraft, fuel, and spare parts, the largest aircraft carrier ever built. The Japanese High Command believes Shinano is untouchable. What they do not admit, even to themselves, is that she is rushed into service unfinished. Many watertight compartments are incomplete. Damage control systems are untested. Her crew is inexperienced. And on November 28, 1944, she sails under cover of darkness from Yokosuka toward Kure, escorted by destroyers, carrying no aircraft, trusting speed and secrecy to protect her. That night, USS Archerfish is on patrol south of Tokyo Bay. The sea is rough, visibility is poor, the submarine is running on the surface to recharge batteries, engines rumbling low. At 8:48 p.m., the radar operator reports a contact, then another, then several.
Enright orders silence. He moves to the periscope. In the darkness, a massive shape emerges, longer than any ship he has ever seen, escorted tightly, moving fast. This is not a tanker, not a troop transport. This is something rare, something priceless. Enright makes his decision instantly. He orders Archerfish to shadow the formation. For hours, the submarine stalks its prey, weaving through rain squalls and darkness. Japanese destroyers zigzag unpredictably, occasionally turning directly toward the submarine. Each time, Enright orders evasive maneuvers, depth changes, course corrections, silence. At one point, a destroyer passes so close you can hear propellers through the hull. The crew barely breathes. By the early morning hours of November 29th, Enright has maneuvered into an ideal firing position. The carrier looms ahead, still unaware. Range closes steadily, 2,000 yards, then 1,500. The sea feels electric. Sweat runs down backs despite the cold. Enright orders the submarine submerged for the attack. Torpedo tubes 1 through 6 are flooded. Gyros are set. The boat steadies. This is the moment where everything can still go wrong. A miscalculation in speed, a faulty torpedo, a single escort spotting the periscope wake. Failure would mean depth charges, crushed steel, and a silent grave on the ocean floor. Enright does not hesitate. Fire. One torpedo launches, then another, then another. 6 in total streak through the black water toward the carrier. The seconds stretch unbearably. Then the sea erupts. 4 massive explosions tear into Shinano's starboard side. Steel plates buckle inward. Fuel tanks rupture. Seawater floods compartments that were never properly sealed. Chaos explodes aboard Shinano. Damage control teams scramble, but the flooding spreads faster than they can respond. The ship slows. Her list increases. Meanwhile, the escorts react violently. Depth charges crash into the sea around Archerfish. The submarine shudders as pressure waves slam the hull. Lights flicker. Men are thrown against bulkheads. Enright orders deeper, 400 feet, then 450. A charge detonates close enough to bend piping and knock sailors off their feet. For a moment, it feels inevitable. One more hit, and the hull will fail. But the Archerfish holds. Slowly, the destroyers lose contact. Silence returns. Above the surface, the impossible becomes reality. Shinano, the pride of Japan's naval future, is dying. Flooding overwhelms pumps. The ship's incomplete internal structure betrays her. At 11:57 a.m., less than 7 hours after being hit, the largest aircraft carrier ever built rolls onto her side and slips beneath the waves. Over 1,400 Japanese sailors perish. The news sends shockwaves through Tokyo. This was not supposed to happen. Not like this. Not to a ship like Shinano. And yet, it has already happened before, and will happen again. Earlier in the war, U.S. submarines sank Shokaku and Taiho, frontline fleet carriers, during the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Later, they will claim Unyo. 4 carriers lost. 4 supposedly protected giants destroyed by underwater hunters Japan once dismissed.
The true impact of this shift is not immediately understood. What Japan loses is not just steel and manpower, but confidence. Carrier movements are restricted. Escorts are pulled from other duties. Fuel shortages worsen as tankers vanish. Aircraft sit idle with nowhere to operate.
the Japanese Navy becomes cautious, reactive, paralyzed. American planners recognize the transformation instantly. Submarines are no longer just stranglers of commerce. They are strategic weapons capable of deciding campaigns. Patrols intensify. Wolfpack coordination improves. By 1945, Japan's navy is effectively neutralized, its remaining ships trapped by fuel shortages and fear of unseen attackers. Joseph Enright returns from patrol, a changed man. Once removed from command, he is now hailed as a hero. He receives the Medal of Honor, not for reckless aggression, but for patience, precision, and nerve. His crew, 80 men whose names rarely appear in history books, return with him. Many are barely out of their teens. They will remember the sounds of depth charges and the waiting silence for the rest of their lives. Others are not so fortunate. 52 American submarines are lost during the war. 3,500 submariners never come home. They rest where their boats sank, still on patrol. To this day, Shinano lies on the ocean floor, her story overshadowed by more famous battles and brighter explosions. But her sinking marks the moment when an empire realized the sea itself had turned against it. One submarine, one night, one commander who refused to let failure define him. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this history matters. We are dedicated to rescuing forgotten stories like this from the depths of the past. If you want to help us continue that mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Joseph Enright and the 80 men of USS Archerfish do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.